A common myth is that closing at the end of the month is the best time to close because I'll save all this money. I don't have to um, make a mortgage payment for a month, and I'm saving all this money. The closing costs are less. Let's talk about that. So, to understand this, we have to understand how interest works. Okay, so interest is always paid in arrears, meaning, you know, it's like a savings account. For example, if you have a savings account, the bank doesn't pay you. If you put $25,000 in there, the bank doesn't pay you immediately. They pay you at the end of the month. They say, hey, you've earned this much in interest. It's the same thing with a mortgage. You don't pay the bank. You don't pay that mortgage payment ahead of time. You pay it in arrears. So you're always paying for the previous month. Okay. So when a mortgage payment is due on the first of the month, it's actually for that previous month, which is obviously in contrast to renting, where you do prepay. Essentially, you're paying for that month. Let's look at an example here. Rent, if you were to pay it, it'd be due on that May 1st, right? So you're paying for that month, okay? But May's interest, or the mortgage payment for May, is really actually paid June 1st. So you're always paying for that previous month, okay? So let's talk about interim interest, okay? So closings for mortgages occur on lots of different days, right? It could close on the 1st, 15th, 30th, whatever, right? Closings occur on lots of different days, and so if we just did it a month later, obviously you'd have lots of different due dates for mortgage payments, and mortgage servicers don't like that. They like a lot of things going the same way, right? And so some consistency. So in order to keep these uniform, all mortgage payments are actually due on the 1st of every month, which is for the previous month's interest. But if you close, on the 15th, well, what about that initial month? Do you get that for free? And this is where that myth comes into place is, hey, you get that free. Because there's an odd number of days from that day of closing until the next 1st of the month, okay? This problem is resolved by charging interest from the day of closing, okay, through the end of that month. So if we close on the 15th, you'd have 15 days of interest, right? This is called interim interest, which is done at closing. It's listed under the prepaid section as far as the closing costs. We don't ever really consider it a cost because it's interest. It's your mortgage payment, really. It's not a cost to do the loan. It's an interest. It's that mortgage payment, okay? So when the next 1st of the month comes, there's really no mortgage payment due because not because it's free, but because it's already been paid on the day of closing. Okay, so if you close on May 15th, you're going to pay 15 days of interest, but then you don't have to make a mortgage payment until July 1st because you already paid it for June 1st. Okay, because you did that called interim interest. Okay, so let's give some examples. Okay, so let's say you're closing at the beginning of the month. So if you close May 1st, okay, you're going to have a full month's of interest at closing, okay? And then you're going to skip that payment on June 1st because obviously you've already made that interest payment at closing for the month of May, okay? So the thing with this one is it requires more money up front, right? So you're paying essentially, a whole month's of interest right up front, but then you don't have to make a mortgage payment for 60 days, so a long time, 2 months, right? So, to see it in a calendar, for example, we close May 1st, okay? Again, more money up front, okay? You're paying more money up front because you're really paying essentially all of this month, and then all of this month is paid July 1st, okay? So you get that 60 days without a mortgage payment, which is nice. Again, requires more up front, but then you don't have to make a payment for a little while. Okay, so now another example. Let's say we close at the very end of the month. Okay, if we close at the end of April, then you will just pay 1 day of interest at closing. Okay, so it makes your closing costs, so your total cash at closing, less. You will then skip May's payment. Okay, because obviously you've already made that payment for interest, which was that April 30th. Okay, so the benefit of this one is there's a little less money up front. You're paying less money up front, but you have to make a mortgage payment 30 days later as opposed to 60 days later, okay? So again, showing you this example, closing on the 30th, 1 day of interest, and then all of May's interest is then paid June 1st. Okay, that's how this works. Okay, so really, which is better? Well, they're the same financially. Okay, at the end of the day, you're only paying interest for the time you use the money. Okay, after about a month, it's this, you've paid the same regardless of which day you closed. Okay, however, closing at the end of the month requires a little less money at the day of closing, but that money is paid back about 30 days later. So again, it's really just kind of what you would prefer, and at the end of the day, I'd probably just go with whatever's easier from a moving in perspective. If you're moving into this home, don't worry so much about closing at the end of the day. Okay, because you're not saving money. Okay, obviously some people get upset. Hey, I really want to close at the end of the month, stuff like that, because they think they're losing money. But really, again, as we've shown here, you're not losing money. Okay, again, they're equal. They're the same. Okay. Hope you've enjoyed this. And if you have any questions on this, let me know. Thanks.